Hey everyone, and welcome back to Moveless History, where we dissect the myths and uncover the gritty truths behind history's most enduring legends. Tonight, we're strapping on our sandals, or maybe just our bare feet, and marching straight into the heart of ancient Sparta, a name that immediately conjures images of unyielding discipline, brutal training, and a society obsessed with military might. When you picture Spartan education, you probably imagine legions of boys being relentlessly drilled, punching rocks and practicing spears, with the occasional push-up for good measure. And honestly, you wouldn't be entirely wrong. But while the popular image of Spartan school days is certainly one of extreme physical rigor, it wasn't just about kicking things. It was a complex, lifelong system designed to forge the ultimate citizen soldier, a system that fundamentally shaped every aspect of a Spartan's existence from the moment he could walk, and sometimes even before. So prepare yourselves for a deeply uncomfortable but utterly fascinating glimpse into the most hardcore education system the ancient world ever conceived. Before we begin this rigorous mental training, take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to Moveless History if you're ready to earn your historical stripes. And in the comments below, tell us, if you had to pick one ancient civilization to go to school in, which would it be and why? Now, assume the position, because the bell for class is about to ring. The agoge. From boy to war machine, the very essence of Spartan education was the agoge, pronounced agoge, a state-controlled training regimen that began for boys at the tender age of 7 years old. This was not optional. It was mandatory. At 7, a boy was literally taken from his family home and moved into communal barracks, where he would live with his peers under the strict supervision of older boys and appointed trainers, the paidonomos. This wasn't boarding school, it was an indoctrination camp. The purpose of the agoge was singular and unyielding, to produce loyal, disciplined, fearless Spartan citizens, utterly dedicated to the state and its military supremacy. Every individual Spartan life was seen as a tool for the collective good, and the agoge was the forging process. It was designed to strip away individuality, foster absolute obedience, and instill an unbreakable bond with one's fellow soldiers. It was a rigorous, tiered system that continued well into adulthood. The stages of hardcore learning, paids, arenas, and beyond. The agoge unfolded in distinct stages, each incrementally increasing the intensity and demands placed upon the young Spartans. 1. Paids, ages 7-14, the foundation of toughness. This was the introductory phase, but don't let introductory fool you. Discipline was immediate and absolute. Boys lived in harsh conditions, sleeping on beds made of reeds they gathered themselves, often without the benefit of a mattress or much padding. They wore minimal clothing, often just a single tunic, even in winter, to accustom them to cold and hardship. Their diet was deliberately meager, designed to keep them constantly hungry. This wasn't just about saving resources. It was a psychological tactic. Constant hunger encouraged resourcefulness, cunning, and the ability to endure deprivation. Skills vital for military campaigns. They learned basic physical conditioning, running, wrestling, jumping, and rudimentary military drills. Obedience was paramount. Questioning authority was unthinkable and met with swift, often severe, physical punishment. A key part of this stage was learning to speak laconically, that is, concisely and sparingly, reflecting the Spartan value of efficiency over verbose Athenian rhetoric. 2. Eirenes, ages 14-20. The young warriors. This was the most intense phase, where the boys became Irenes, or youths. They continued their rigorous physical and military training, but now took on additional responsibilities. Older Irenes were often placed in charge of younger paids, acting as their disciplinarians and instructors. This served a dual purpose. It developed leadership skills in the older boys and reinforced the hierarchy and obedience for the younger ones. Punishments were still harsh, with public floggings, especially at the altar of Artemis Orthia, being a notorious ritual designed to test endurance of pain and loyalty. The legendary cheese-stealing ritual, where boys tried to steal cheese from an altar guarded by whip-wielding overseers, wasn't just about food. It was a brutal test of stealth, cunning, and the ability to withstand immense pain without crying out. A controversial and particularly brutal aspect of this stage was the crypteia. This was a secret, selective program where the most promising Irenes were sometimes sent out alone into the countryside armed only with a knife, tasked with surviving off the land and, chillingly, murdering helots, the enslaved population of Sparta who seemed too strong or independent. The purpose of the Crypteia was multifaceted. It served as a brutal rite of passage, teaching stealth and ruthlessness. It honed their survival skills, and perhaps most importantly, it instilled terror among the Helots, preventing rebellion and ensuring their subjugation, which was foundational to Spartan society. This was the ultimate final exam in ruthlessness. 3. From Agoge to Syssitia, ages 20-30. Full citizenship and barracks life. At 20, a Spartan man graduated from the Agoge and became a full citizen. But his communal living didn't end. He was required to join a Syssitia, a common mess hall or dining club with about 15 other men. They ate, trained, and socialized together, fostering an unbreakable bond of brotherhood. Marriage was expected, but men often visited their wives only in secret, as they were still expected to sleep in the barracks until the age of 30. This decade was a continuation of military readiness, drill, and communal living, reinforcing the idea that the state, not the family, was paramount. The not just kicking things part, a narrow curriculum. While physical training and military drill were undoubtedly the core of the Agoge, it wasn't entirely devoid of other learning. However, the curriculum was highly selective and practical, designed to serve the state's military needs, not to foster intellectual curiosity or artistic expression. Literacy. Spartans learned basic reading and writing. This wasn't for philosophical debates or literary appreciation, but for practical purposes. Understanding military orders, reading simple laws, and managing basic accounts. Their famous laconic speech, short, pithy, direct, was a direct result of this pragmatic approach to language. Why waste words when a few would suffice? Music and dance. This might surprise you, but music and dance were integral to Spartan education. Not for entertainment or artistic flair, but for military discipline and communal cohesion. Choral singing, rhythmic chants, and specific military dances helped to instill a sense of unity, rhythm, and obedience, vital for marching in formation and coordinating battlefield movements. The beat of the drum and the melody of the pipe were not just for pleasure. They were tools of war, helping to steady nerves and coordinate actions. Physical education, the main event. This was, without question, the cornerstone. Running, wrestling, javelin throwing, discus, unarmed combat, similar to pancration, and constant military drills filled their days. They learned to fight as a unit, to endure pain, to overcome exhaustion, and to face fear head-on. They trained in all conditions. Without complaint, their bodies honed into living weapons. Hunting. Practical hunting skills were also taught, not just for sustenance, but as a direct application of their physical and tactical training. Tracking, trapping, and engaging with wild animals honed their outdoor survival and combat abilities. Authorized stealing. This is perhaps the most infamous non-physical skill taught. Boys were given meager rations and encouraged to steal food from others, but with a critical caveat. They were severely punished if they were caught. This wasn't about criminal intent. It was a brutal lesson in stealth, cunning, self-reliance, and avoiding detection. All vital skills for a soldier operating behind enemy lines or foraging in hostile territory. The hunger they faced ensured the motivation was high. Diet, deprivation, and the black broth. The Spartan diet in the Agoge was intentionally, famously, bad. Their staple was melis zomos, or black broth, a concoction of boiled pork, blood, salt, and vinegar. It was notoriously unappetizing, famously leading an Athenian to remark that he understood why Spartans were so fearless in battle. They were simply eager to escape life. This meager fare, combined with minimal bread and limited vegetables, meant constant hunger. This deprivation served a strategic purpose. It hardened them to endure hardship, taught them resourcefulness through authorized stealing, and kept their bodies lean and ready for physical exertion. This was not about nutrition for growth. It was about fueling a war machine with just enough to function. Discipline extended beyond food. Silence was enforced, especially during meals. Obedience to elders and superiors was absolute. They slept on hot beds, bathed infrequently to toughen their skin and build resilience, and endured physical discomfort as a matter of routine. The aim was to forge individuals for whom discomfort was the norm, making them unflappable in the face of battlefield privation. The surprising exception, Spartan girls' education. While Spartan boys' education was about as rigid as it gets, Spartan girls had a surprisingly different and, in many ways, more liberated upbringing than their counterparts in other Greek city-states, like Athens. Spartan society believed that strong mothers produced strong sons, so girls, too, underwent rigorous physical training. They ran, wrestled, threw javelins and discus, often training in public and in less restrictive clothing than was common for other Greek women. This was not for military service, but to ensure physical health, strength, and endurance for childbirth. But their education wasn't purely physical. Spartan girls were also taught music, dance, and poetry, and importantly, they learned to manage estates and supervise helot labor. While Athenian women were largely confined to the home, Spartan women moved more freely, managed significant property, they could inherit and own land, and held considerable social influence within Spartan society. They were known for their sharp wit and assertive nature, a direct result of their more comprehensive and less restrictive upbringing compared to the sequestered lives of Athenian women. They were educated to be mothers of warriors, managers of the home front, and fiercely loyal citizens, just as important to the stability of the state as the men. The system's purpose and its cost. The Spartanagogy was a brutal, all-consuming system, but it achieved its singular purpose with terrifying efficiency. It produced the finest hoplite soldiers in the ancient world. It fostered an unparalleled sense of collective identity, loyalty, and discipline among its citizens. This military might was essential for maintaining control over the vast helot population, who vastly outnumbered their Spartan masters. The entire society was structured around this one goal: military readiness and internal control. However, this came at a tremendous cost. The relentless focus on military training meant a severe neglect of intellectual and artistic pursuits. Compared to Athens, the philosophical debates, the grand theatrical productions, the advancements in art and architecture were largely absent in Sparta. Individuality was suppressed, creativity channeled only into the most pragmatic forms. The system bred a fear of innovation, a rigid adherence to tradition, and ultimately contributed to Sparta's eventual decline as it struggled to adapt to changing geopolitical realities. Their strength was also their weakness, a legacy of iron and sacrifice. So, the next time you hear the word Spartan, remember it's not just a synonym for tough. It refers to a meticulously crafted, brutally effective, and utterly unique system of education that began at age 7 and ended only with death. It stripped away childhood as we know it, replaced parental bonds with state loyalty, and forged individuals who were unparalleled in battle but arguably stunted in other aspects of human development. It wasn't just kicking things, but it definitely involved a whole lot of physical hardship, an unwavering demand for obedience, and a chilling lesson in the ultimate cost of collective strength. It reminds us that every civilization makes choices about what it values most, and for Sparta, it was always the unyielding pursuit of military excellence, no matter the personal sacrifice. Thank you for joining Moveless History as we dissected the ironclad education of ancient Sparta. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your own thoughts on this extreme approach to schooling in the comments below. We'll see you next time as we continue to unravel the fascinating and often uncomfortable truths of the past.